Hello, guys. Thanks for joining. We'll start in a couple of minutes. Let's let the others join as well. Okay. So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining GRSee webinar series. Today we'll focus on the ISO 27001, bridging gap between the 2013 and the 2022 version. I'm Elad Motola, a COO at GRSee and an ISO lead auditor, and I'm joined by Jay Imszennik from our partner Schellman.
Thank you all for joining. We're looking forward to walking through the transition specifically for the 2022 version of ISO 27001 with you all today. Thanks a lot.
Before we dive into the webinar content, let's cover what you can expect over the next 45 minutes. In this webinar, you will understand and avoid common challenges and pain points when transitioning between versions of ISO 27001 certification, understand the changes between the versions from an auditor's point of view, see how GRSee expert can lead you to get the ISO 27001 2022 version certification, plus get answers to your questions from myself and Jay, who have deep expertise in the ISO 27001 audit process. Before we begin, let me share just a couple of housekeeping items. We are recording this session for on-demand playback for those who were unable to join. Since we have a short amount of time, if you have questions, please type them into the chat and we will get to as many as we can. For those who aren't familiar with GRSee, GRSee provides numerous services in the field of information security, application security, penetration testing services, cyber services, APTs, threat modeling, secure architecture and design, and multi-regulation enterprise environments. We help organizations achieve and maintain security and privacy compliance to the most rigorous global standard, including ISO 27001, SOC 2, HIPAA, PCI, GDPR, CCPA, NIST, and others. We do provide a range of security services to a myriad of organizations, including enterprises, fintech, high-tech, payment gateways, online gaming, forex, financial, and insurance. And we have over 20 full-time compliance experts and auditors on staff, like myself, who are here to support you every step on the way, help you answer auditors' questions, and provide guidance so you can get and stay compliant with the frameworks that matter to your business.
For those that aren't familiar with Schellman, we specialize in cybersecurity assessment services. Our role is really that of a third-party independent assessor. We work with companies after implementation of their management system in order to provide certification, attestation, or other assurance type reporting services. As an ISO certification body, our focus and expertise is in ISO 27001, 27701, 9001, 20000, and 22301. Recently, we're expecting to get accredited against ISO 14001 for environmental management as well. We also offer a variety of other compliance assessment services, in the area of SOC 1, SOC 2, PCI, HIPAA, High Trust, and FedRAMP. As it relates to our 27001 program, we're duly accredited by ANAB and UCAS, who are two of the most well-known and respected accreditation bodies out there. Lastly, kind of here at Schellman and how we're comprised, we've got 350 professional assessors, all U.S. based. We do travel frequently for our clients, but we're all full-time employees with experience leading assessments, and on average or on aggregate rather, we deliver about 3,000 projects per year, and consisting of about 600 plus ISO projects for our clients. Now I'll transition back to Elad to go over some tips on how to achieve ISO compliance and an overview of ISO, which is what we're here for.
Thank you, Jay. Our professional services and support help you succeed in the audit and obtain ISO 27001 certification. Our experts scales with your business so you can cover all information security requirements as needed in your business: cloud frameworks, PT, risk assessment, CISO, AppSec, and more. Plus, our expert is kept current with any changes to the frameworks to help you stay compliant time after time. So ISO 27001 is an international standard on establishing, maintaining, and continuously improving information security within an organization. It focuses on combination of people, processes, controls, and technology to establish what's called an information security management system. An ISMS helps companies think critically and strategically about their risk appetite and information security across their entire organization. Because ISO 27001 places a heavy emphasis on continuous improvement, the standard ensures that company stakeholders dedicated resources to maintaining and improving the ISMS over time. Some benefits of pursuing ISO 27001 include international recognized information security standard, where SOC 2 is recognized mainly in North America. ISO 27001 is recognized globally, for example. Establishes trust between company and customer business partners. Also, the standard is adaptable to organizations of different sizes and types.
So let's talk a little bit about the ISO 27001 process. In order to achieve certification, as an organization, you're going to need to go through a series of audits with a certified ISO auditor, more specifically a certification body. The certification program itself is designed to be a 3-year certificate once you get recognized or certified for your management system. In year one of that 3-year period, you're going to consist of going through 2 series of audits or assessments. The first is a stage 1, which is really a focus on the organization and how it's implemented its management system, scope, specific policies and procedures that have been implemented from a risk management and control standpoint. We kind of consider that more of a design or a preparatory audit in order to prepare ourselves for stage 2, which is the second assessment that would occur in year 1. And that's much more of a deeper dive and review of your business processes, how the ISMS operates, and how the controls are there and have been implemented to not only achieve your own organization policies, objectives, but also making sure that they're compliant with the 27001 requirements. Now, after you get through that stage 2 audit in year 1, you would need to correct any findings of nonconformity, and at that point, you'd be ready to be granted your ISO 27001 certification that becomes valid for 3 years, but contingent on annual surveillance audits. So year 2 and 3 are going to look a little bit different than year 1 in that, as an ISO auditor, we would have to perform annual surveillance or maintenance audits. The objective of those, a little bit of a lighter touch in comparison to what you've gone through during year one, but we need to make sure that the management system continues to be effective and is properly maintained by the organization. Once you get to that 3-year period, you would then have to go through a recertification audit that once again, we would need to assess the entire management system similar to, stage 2 in year one, go through all the clauses, the controls, and cover 100% of the ISO 27001 requirements. So moving on here, kind of to discuss, the latest transition. So the last major revision of ISO 27001, the standard, occurred in 2013. So the standard has been due for a refresh for some time now. ISO 27001 was updated on October 25th of 2022. As a part of that update, there was a 3-year, 36-month transition period that ends on October 31st of 2025, meaning that organizations need to be on the new version of the standard by this date. There were some clarifications to this timeline that was released in IAFMD 26. That being, if you are an organization that is currently certified, the 36-month timeline stands unless you have a scheduled recertification audit after April 29th of 2024. So for new certifications, if you want to be assessed against the 2013 version of the standard, you have through April 30th of 2024. After this date, all new certifications need to be against the 2022 standard. Of course, if you do choose to go that route, then you need to make sure that you transition by the end of that period of October 2025. So, really important for organizations currently that are going through the transition or have already a certificate, that you look at that recertification timing and make sure that if it's going to, your recertification occurs or is scheduled to occur after April 29th of 2024, you should start to plan on transitioning at that point during that recertification audit. Again, a really key takeaway here is you must transition by that 10/31/2025 deadline, which is 3 years. We can move forward a lot and talk a little bit about some high-level changes. It is important when getting ready for the transition to understand, what has changed. The biggest change is within the 27002 control guidance and framework that we know as Annex A. In 2013, there was a concept of control objectives that existed in that version of the standard. Those objectives have been removed and replaced with control themes. Overall, the total number of controls also decreased. So in 2013, there were 114 controls. In 2022, you have 93 controls in Annex A. However, that can be a little slightly misleading because in actuality, there was a lot of duplication that existed in the 2013 version that has now been consolidated in this new version. So, face value, it wasn't really truly a decrease of 21 controls. If you look a little bit deeper at the changes, we've got, 57. You can move to the next slide, I think, a lot here. We've got 57 controls from the old version, which were merged. 35 had no changes, 3 were removed, and 11 net new controls were added. So what else changed? The title of the standard was also updated to include, reference to cybersecurity and privacy protection. Both have obviously become increasingly critical to information security management. So there's a little bit more focus on that within the standard, and more specifically, the controls that I was describing. The basis of ISO 27001, really the framework of the management system, your requirements that you might know and interpret as clauses 4 through 10, they only slightly changed. I mentioned before that most of the change occurred in the actual control implementation guidance and Annex A. There was some change to 27001 though as a result, but again, it was kind of minimal. So if you look at clause 6, which talks about the sort of planning and risk management, They had to remove, obviously, reference to control objectives, which are really no longer in place with the new structure of Annex A. 6.3, in terms of planning, was updated to introduce the need and requirement for organizations to assess the risk of any planned changes within the environment. Again, kind of a minor change. Most organizations were doing that already. And then the other change, which was kind of curious, was a flip-flop in how they organized Clause 10 for nonconformity and corrective action and continual improvement. They were reversed in the new version of the standard in terms of what was sub A and sub B. So, the major changes which we described were the controls and the move from the objectives to the control themes. So instead of the objectives that we had in 2013, we now have a set of 4 control themes, and those are split into organizational controls, which we have 37 in total. Then you have people controls, which there are 8 in total, physical controls, which we have 14 in total, and then technological controls, which we have 34 in total. So that was really kind of at a high level summary description of the changes. I will flip it back to Elad to elaborate further on some of the net new controls and how we kind of plan to tackle them.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jay. So yeah, we have some new controls in the new version. So basically, there are 11 controls that did not appear in the previous version. And are now reflected in the screen. We'll focus on several important points that are challenged and give the perspective on them from an auditor's point of view.
Okay, so we're going to focus right now on A51, which is a net new control around threat intelligence. So at a high level, this is it falls in the organizational controls category. You can kind of consider it, depending on implementation, either preventive, detective, or corrective in nature. Really, the purpose and the intent here, though, is to ensure that the organization has procedures to gather information about different threats, analyze them, provide awareness of that threat environment within the organization to the appropriate stakeholders, so that mitigation actions can actually be implemented to address those threats. So, Elad, from your experience from the consulting side, what would you expect organizations to verify or implement as part of this new control domain?
So in general, GRSee helps minimize and facilitate conversation with the auditor. So as part of our consulting solution, we provide customized templates and documents that customer can use as an implementation of ISMS system and as evidence utilization to controls during the audit. Also, every client will receive a full dedicated consulting, receive an answer to any question that may arise, and will assist any requests from our consultant for additional evidence that the auditor may have. We want to make sure that the organization is able to collect information in some way and be aware of threat intelligence, internal and external configuration are acceptable. The organization can collect this information internally through technology or division of responsibilities within the company. In addition, it can collect the information from external sources, such as supply reports, announcements from government authorities, etc. So another control that we'll focus on today is in the new version, in the technical clause, is configuration management. So A.8.9 high-level explanation will be that this control requires you to manage the whole cycle of the security configuration for your technology to ensure a proper level of security and to avoid any unauthorized changes. This includes configuration definition, implementation, monitoring, and review. And a question for you, Jay, from the auditor's perspective, what do you expect from the organization to verify here?
Okay. So it's important to understand this is a technical control. It's considered preventative, and really the overall goal and objective here, like Elad mentioned, right, is ensuring that your assets can be deployed in a manner that ensures minimum security settings, configurations are not altered or compromised. At the end of the day, your IT systems obviously need to be secure, compliant, but also optimized for performance. So organizations, to approach this, they should be maintaining an accurate inventory of those configuration items, ensuring processes in place to control and monitor changes to them, being able to, restore systems to a known or secure state in the event that there's, incident response or backup and recovery that needs to be implemented in response to, system issues or actual system incidents. But as an auditor, my approach here is going to be making sure that I first, understand how the organization has addressed this, how the policies the organization has defined, the tools that are utilized during the build and deployment process in order to ensure that consistency and ensure that minimum level of security, while also, considering the specific protection needs of the information asset, because obviously there's going to be different requirements depending on the different types of systems that within your network and within your IT environment. So I'm going to be looking for the organization to answer questions such as, whether or not they've developed standard templates or standard build procedures for the types of systems that they are maintaining and deploying. Then really from a network security or device configuration perspective, making sure that the process includes things like disabling unnecessary services or functions, ensuring that there's a strategy in place to implement, for those resources, the identity and access mechanisms like LDAP or logging and monitoring functions, a connection to a SIEM tool. Make sure that those are implemented and standardized right as part of that build and as part of that deployment. There should also be changes, especially when implementing new systems, that default authentication information that was supplied by the vendor to do the install was updated and managed. Proper license verification as well in terms of managing the software. Those are just some of the elements, right? But lastly, you need to make sure as an organization you've got a process to track changes as well to standard configurations, and then periodically monitor those standard configurations to make sure that there's no susceptibility and to any emerging threats or risks that are out there in the environment.
Thank you, Jay. Another control that we will focus today is 8.8.12, the data leakage prevention. So data leakage is a critical piece of information security field. The new version requires organizations to refer to the data leakage prevention control. And this control requires you to apply various data leakage measures in order to avoid unauthorized disclosure of sensitive information. And if such incident happens, to detect them in a timely manner. So Jay, from your perspective as an auditor, what do you expect from the organization to verify here?
Sure, and this can be considered a technical control, most likely preventative in nature. The goal here is ensuring that that information assets are contained within the secure environments that the organization has defined and implemented. So we would be looking really at the organization's overall approach to this, right, from an administrative perspective, things like acceptable use, but also sort of a more layered approach in implementation of technical control requirements. Those could be specific DLP software that's been implemented, restrictions, network segmentation restrictions, prevention of personnel from removing systems or information rather from one environment into another. You could have tools within your any transfer mechanism, email, FTP, et cetera, that is looking for, things like bulk data transfer, things that would trigger IT for potential suspicious activity that may, that may have resulted from, information leakage, whether it was intentional or malicious. But ensuring, from a technical perspective, that the organization has considered to the extent that it can kind of control, manage, and monitor information leakage within its systems and resources.
Thank you, Jay. Another control is the web filtering. And many clients want to know how web filtering fits into the ISO 27001 requirement. And this control requires you to manage which websites your users are accessing in order to protect your IT systems. So again, Jay, from the auditor's perspective, what is the main goal? And what do you expect from the organization to verify here?
So again, this is another technical control, preventative. Like you mentioned, a lot of the goal is protecting systems from being compromised by malware, preventing access for your employees, your users, to unauthorized places on the internet where they may encounter suspicious or malicious activity or software. So you need, as an organization, to be able to prevent as much as possible your systems from obviously being compromised by malicious code, but also prevent those users from, using, illegal materials, illicit materials that they can grab, from the internet and the ecosystem there. So, again, similar to the data loss prevention control implementation, as an auditor, I'm going to be looking for, the organization to make me understand how they have implemented a layered approach to this control area. So, again, sort of looking at administrative policy, acceptable use, how, from an education and awareness standpoint, how the organization is making users aware of how they can protect the organization as it relates to, these types of controls. But then, layering on that administrative policy, education, and awareness for technical controls, like we mentioned before with the LP. So, has the organization sort of sat back and identified the types of websites that personnel should and shouldn't have access to? Are those explicitly documented within your policies and communicated to your employees? Kind of back to the training that I mentioned, within your, onboarding training, your ongoing security awareness training, whether it's annually or more frequent, but making sure that as a component of that, you're educating end users, giving them the tools, the information that they need as your employees to protect your organization's assets and prevent sort of bad or poor behavior that could potentially lead to, a security problem down the road. So that, that layered technical control implementation, I mean, it's going to vary by organization to organization, but, looking into web browser limitations, web application firewalls, endpoint gateways to monitor, prevent traffic to certain IPs or domains that could contain, malicious content or material. So, again, kind of pointing towards that layered approach, the administrative, the policy, the end user awareness, and then from a technical standpoint, how is IT implemented preventative controls there, and how are they monitoring, user activity and behavior to prevent them from accessing malicious web content on the internet.
Great, thanks for the clarification, Jay. And Jay, can you please explain us about secure coding? What exactly is the new requirement deals with?
Yeah, so the last one, the last net new control we're going to focus on here, I believe, is secure coding. So A8.28, it's in the technical control area, considered by the standard to be a preventative control. The goal here, really ensuring that, software that organizations write as a part of its SDLC is written securely, to prevent potential vulnerabilities. How the organization sort of establishes its secure coding principles and practices. And that really can include, activities that happen before development, during development, and after development or coding. So, on this one, Elad, from your consulting experience, your advisory experience and perspective, how would you expect organizations to evaluate this control and implement it within their environment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good question, Jay. So secure coding principles should be applied to software development. So from a consultant's perspective, our consulting has the ability to help software development teams ensure by various tools that software is written securely and thereby reduce number of potential software security vulnerabilities. And moreover, with the ISMS policy templates that we provide at GRSee as a starting point, and they cover the requirements of section 4 to 10. So it includes also the internal and external subject areas, stakeholders, and the scope of the ISMS. So guys, thank you again for joining us. Sorry. Before we get to the questions, I do want to share a few resources available to you, including our blog post on ISO 27001 compliance, a link to our ISO 27001 Knowledge Hub, and how best to connect with the GRSee team for inquiries about our consulting compliance. This presentation will be sent to you by email after the webinar. And now Jay and I would be happy to take any questions. So we can start with if you have any questions on the chat, or you can just ask us here, unmute yourself, and we'll try to assist and provide you all the clarifications needed. Any questions, guys? We are here. We have a couple of more minutes. We can assist you. Okay, so if you don't have any questions for now, that's fine. You can always contact us by emails to GRSee or to Schellman. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us. It was very nice to have you here with us. And yeah, be safe, and we'll be in touch. Thank you very much.